We live in an era where you can access the entirety of human knowledge while standing in line for coffee. Yet for all this data, we are exhausted. We spend hours swiping through facts, opinions, and endless streams of information. But instead of feeling enlightened, we usually just feel anxious and empty. Why is that? Why doesn't accumulating more information make us feel more at peace? The 11th century Persian philosopher Nasir Khusraw addressed this exact problem in his text Kuwan al-Akwan. He argued that true intellect is entirely different from human memory or the ability to calculate facts. For Khusraw, actual intelligence requires a connection to what he called the universal intellect, the anchor at the center of reality. This diagram visualizes his system. Khusraw wrote that this universal intellect doesn't stand alone. It is held up by 7 inseparable pillars that emerge together at the moment of creation. Those 7 pillars are mind, truth, joy, proof, life, perfection, and independence. When they all lock into place, they form a complete, unbroken ring that insulates the mind. Khusraw described a mind that lacks these pillars as a corpse. He argued that a mind which only reacts to external stimuli without its own internal logic has no agency of its own. It is a passenger in its own existence, effectively dead to the world it inhabits. To come alive in the modern world, we have to stop treating our brains like hard drives. We need to elevate our thinking from processing raw data to achieving total, cosmic independence. Looking back at Khusraw's model, we're going to isolate the first cluster of his framework, the epistemic pillars of mind, truth, and proof. Khusraw argued that when the mind encounters absolute truth, falsehood is naturally banished. It's a mechanism of replacement. Centuries later, the foundational rationalists of Western philosophy would chase this exact same concept. We see echoes of this objective truth in Plato's theory of forms, the idea that beyond our flawed physical world exists a realm of perfect, immutable concepts. Khusraw's reliance on proof also mirrors René Descartes, who famously stripped away every single assumption he had about reality to find one undeniable certainty to build his logic upon. But Khusraw takes this logic a step further. For him, finding objective proof is not a dry academic exercise, it is a spiritual act. Grasping truth inherently banishes sorrow and floods the mind with inner peace. That brings us directly to the existential pillars of his framework, life and joy. Here, the focus shifts from logical deduction to the actual feeling of existing in the world. To understand these 2 pillars, we can look to the 13th century Sufi poet Rumi and his masterpiece, the Mathnawi. Rumi frequently wrote about what he called the partial intellect. This is the fragmented, argumentative state of mind that obsesses over mundane anxieties, ego, and winning petty debates. He contrasted this with the universal intellect, a state of clarity that perfectly aligns with Khosrow's framework. Both philosophers realized that when you stop arguing over fragments and finally grasp the ultimate truth, the natural byproduct is immense joy. Khosrow summarized this by placing sorrow in doubt and joy in truth. In his view, the mind that fails to grasp truth remains inert, like a body without breath. The act of recognition is what animates it. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Drop a comment below, I'd love to hear what you think. Your support really means a lot and helps me keep creating content for you all. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Finally, we reach the apex of Khusraw's structure, the pillars of perfection and independence. In Persian, this concept of deep, absolute independence is called bi-niyazi. Bi-niyazi means self-sufficiency, but it has nothing to do with accumulating wealth or living in isolation away from society. It describes a state of total internal autonomy. You can find a striking parallel to this in the Taoist concept of wu-wei, or effortless action, where a person moves in perfect harmony with the universe without needing to force their will upon it. It also strongly resembles the concept of non-attachment in Zen Buddhism, where the mind is entirely free from needing external validation or material success to feel whole. For Khusraw, this is the final evolution of the intellect. When a mind is deeply enriched by truth and proof, it requires absolutely nothing from the outside world to be complete. These centuries-old ideas provide a structure for the modern vacuum. When you find yourself spiraling into digital anxiety, overwhelmed by headlines and arguments, you are trapped in Rumi's partial intellect. The way out is to apply Khusraw's pillars. Recognize that absorbing knowledge without demanding proof only generates doubt. When you relentlessly seek objective truth instead, the natural result is joy. Second, remember that living in ignorance, or willful distraction, is a state of spiritual stagnation. Expanding your intellect is the mechanism that pulls you back into the living world. Finally, aim for Biniazi. True autonomy transforms the mind into a sanctuary of self-sufficiency. At this level of intelligence, a person stops accumulating data and starts achieving independence from the noise. Khusraw described the perfected mind as the center of both worlds. The chaotic storm of the modern era is likely here to stay. Your best defense is to build a foundation so solid that you become the quiet center of the storm.